Feelings about being in prison before I actually came in.
Let us be clear about it. You are currently serving a sentence?
I'm currently serving a prison sentence. It's my first and hopefully my last prison sentence. Thanks to this prison,
what's your sentence?
My sentence is 8 years.
For
fraudulently removing money.
Right.
By various means, computers and fraudulent transactions. Thanks to this prison, I won't be coming back. I didn't know what to expect when I first went into prison. It was quite a shock to go in for the amount of time that I was sentenced for. It didn't take me long to realise that my preconceived ideas of prison were totally wrong. I had visions of it being like porridge or something like that. But it's not. It's very, very hard. I did have an idea that I would be surrounded by people with broken noses and cauliflower ears. The old stereotype version, but it's not. Everybody is normal in prison. You are not. It's full of ordinary people.
Hard.
It's a very hard regime.
In what way?
You are taken away from your family. It's as if you are put into cold storage, like suspended animation for 1, 2, 3, 4, how many years? I think your family serve a harsher sentence than you do.
Agreed.
But the argument is that sentencing, they don't take that into consideration. Well, we didn't take it into consideration when we committed the crime.
But your experience has been sufficiently horrendous for you not to wish to repeat it.
I found it to be purely containment in certain establishments. When you first come in, you're in a B category prison. I was in Wandsworth for 2.5 years, admittedly out of choice, because my family live in London and it was suitable for them to visit me. I could have moved to another establishment, but I didn't. I found the regime there to be quite harsh, very stringent. It was purely containment. Nobody was really interested in your future, like further down the line. And unless you are very strong, it can affect people. I've seen people go out and come back into prison, recidivists, because you're told, like, your door's open and it's shut, when to eat, when you don't, when you go to the toilet, when you don't, and then they throw you out the gate with 48 quid. Get on with it. And if you haven't done that for 2 or 3 years, some people do tend to revert back to what they know, which is
prison hard?
Well, it depends, really. You're saying it's hard, but it's his first time in prison, and it's like, if you brought up to it, then it's not so hard. Like, if you start at a certain age,
if you brought up to it?
Well, if, like...
Brought up to it? You brought up to prison? You become accustomed to it, do you? You become...
Oh, yeah. Well, if you start in detention centres...
When you start young enough?
When you start young enough, then you know what to expect. Whereas he didn't know what to expect.
So you're saying what you adjust to it quite easily?
Well, I did do from detention centre, yeah.
But how would you describe prison then? How would you describe prison life? It doesn't have any fears for you?
Oh, no.
Not at all?
No, not at all, whatsoever.
Are you in prison now? You're not?
No, I'm not.
No, but what was your last sentence?
3 years.
Where?
Heading Road.
And did that cause you any problems?
No.
Can you understand that?
Well, what do they expect? Holiday camp?
Well, actually, I went camping from prison.
Yeah, that's what... There's several on our estate that have been in prison, and they said, we can do it standing on our head. Well, how about a good regime where, you know, about prison rights? If you give them 15 hours a day, flipping hard labour, they'd be that blimmin' buggered up. They wouldn't be able to flipping right and do things like that.
Well, you want to make it harsher?
Of course you
harder.
do. My God, you've got a gym
here.
What
do you want? To it, he says.
Yeah, but you're talking about the writing. When I go to prison, I go in, I get my head down, do my sentence, and come out. I don't cause no bother when I'm in there. I just do my sentence, get my head down, and get out.
But it doesn't in this way in which it affected David, it doesn't deter you from committing further sentences.
Oh no, I'm deterred, mate. It didn't deter me. I'm not saying that I would... I've kept out of trouble now for 7 years. And I won't do it again. But as I was brought up to it, yeah, I would.
Is he giving the wrong impression of prison, do you think? Is it easy?
I don't think it's easy. I think it's the oldest thing I've ever done in my life, being sent away.
How long have you been away?
I've been away 2 years now.
Where are you?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm here.
You're here?
Yeah, I'm here now, serving here.
And you're serving a sentence for?
4 years handling.
What's it like?
What's it like for me? It's just something really horrible. I don't ever want to do it again. It's just, I don't know, it's nearly ruined my life.
And our friend here says we need to make it harsher.
Of course you do.
Of
course you do. If you've committed a crime, you should pay it. Like I say, you've got to...
Hang
on, let me finish.
I'm paying my crime.
You're not saying pay it by... He's paying it by being deprived of his liberty. You want to go further than that. You want to make it tough.
Of course you do.
What do you want?
What do you want to do? Yeah, go on.
What do you want us in chain gang sort of thing, like breaking rocks?
Why not? Why not? Well, if you've committed a crime, you should pay for your crime, not just sit around gyms and flipping weightlifting and things. Well, what's this? This is a gym, isn't it?
Of course it's a gym. But you've got to have a gym for exercise. You've got to keep yourself reasonably fit to do the work. We've all got jobs.
The lad at the back here said he come out of Eden Road, that's Hull.
Yeah.
But that's where I got, that's where I finished my term. But it was a Borstal then, that's 1951. And I can tell you that, if he'd have been in there in 1951, it wouldn't have been an holiday camp.
Yeah.
In today's paper it says that in the scrubs, they get in acupuncture and massage. Well, I've been to 4 Borstals, running away from them, and, over the top and away and got caught. I finished up in Hull.
Yeah.
That's after doing my punishment at Wandsworth and the scrubs. Now then, at Hull, they told you once, and the only massage you got then was a kick up the backside if you weren't quick enough. And it was no good going telling the governor. He said, well, what do you want me to do? They're in charge of you, and that's it. But there was no question about it. I've been telling this officer here, I got sent to Wandsworth for absconding, and it's a prison officer. And we got 56 days there, 28 of them was bread and water, 3 on, 3 off.
Plenty good enough.
And they used to have
Plenty good enough.
And they used to have...
You're not suggesting we bring back those days?
Yes, why not?
Are you sure?
Yeah, I come out in 52. I got married in 53. I've had 10 children, I've lost 3, but I've got 7 children living, 4 lads and 3 girls. Not one of them have been in trouble, because I used to belt them if they did.
Bread and water back?
Yes.
Hang on, isn't it? Why are you laughing?
Bread and water. Where's it coming from? Where's it stoner, Jenny?
What's prison like, Earl?
In prison, you've got a choice. You can either sit down and do nothing, or you can get up and do something. Due to having them choices, boy, most people just take it easy, just sit down, do their bang up. They don't really get on with anything. Younger prisons are much worse as well, because everyone there, they're more agitated, more crazy. Yet when you go to the over 21s, things is much more easy, I'd say. Definitely, it's much more like a holiday camp.
A holiday camp?
Yeah,
David, talk to him, David.
There's lots of different conflicting ideas of what prison should be. I mean, what do you think prison should be like?
15 hours a day, hard labour. That tired, you wouldn't be able to even think about rioting or messing about or anything like that. Separate cells.
Would it work?
Yeah.
I'm sure it'd work. When you come out,
whatever you do to change the system, there'll always be somebody who'll find it easy. It always suits somebody. You know what I mean? And people who usually do the crimes to go to prison, they find it easy. It's suitable for them because that's what they're under. You know what I mean? That's what they're about.
Yes, I was seriously ill in 1992 and ended up in a nursing home. And because I had a fire brigade pension coming in monthly and had a few thousand savings in the bank, that was taken off me to pay towards the cost of the nursing home. But when you go into prison, not a penny is taken off you to pay the costs. So when you commit a crime and are sent to prison, anything you own should be sold to raise the funds to pay for your costs of being in prison. Why should us tax people be highly taxed to pay for these people?
Keep up to date with what's going through Parliament at the moment and what has gone through Parliament. Depending on what offence you've committed, drugs importation, under the Drugs Trafficking Offences Act, any profit, any monies,
but that only applies to drug traffickers.
Well, no,
it doesn't apply to other.
Because there's legislation going through Parliament at the moment where they want to introduce it for other types.
But it isn't
of
law.
crimes.
It isn't law.
No, but it's going through at the moment.
Well, it might not go through. You know, the Parliament has a habit of kind of throwing things out sometimes. But the point is, what my friend here was saying, all those who are in prison should have all their personal belongings, their assets taken from them, leaving aside that it already happens now under the Drug Trafficking Offences Act, in order to pay for their keep. It costs something like £450. Hang on, it costs £450 more than it costs to send a young man to Eton.
How does this help with the...
And they're saying they have to increase the
Take
number
away the
of
money.
staff.
Take away the money of those who are committed to prison.
Keep up to date with what's going through Parliament at the moment and what has gone through Parliament. Depending on what offence you've committed, drugs importation, under the Drugs Trafficking Offences Act, any profit,
That can
any
be taken.
monies,
But that only applies to drug traffickers.
Well,
it doesn't apply to other...
Because there's legislation going through Parliament at the moment where they want to introduce it for other types of
But it isn't law.
crimes.
It isn't law.
No, but it's going through at the moment.
It might not go through. You know, the Parliament has a habit of kind of throwing things out sometimes. But the point is, what my friend here was saying before we got on to suicide was that all those who are in prison should have all their personal belongings, their assets taken from them, leaving aside that it already happens now under the Drug Trafficking Offences Act, in order to pay for their keep. It costs something like £450. Hang on, it costs £450 more than it costs to send a young man to Eton.
How does this help with the person that commits a one-off offence? They've lived a law-abiding life all their life, they get into money problems and they commit an offence. Surely you can't take everything off this person because in desperation they tried to help their family.
Has prison been easy for you?
No, it certainly hasn't.
What did you do?
In for importation.
And how long?
6 years.
Where are you serving your sentence?
I'm serving at Latchmere now.
How much more you got to do?
I've got 2 years to my ADR or 9 months to my parole.
Over there it says it's a holiday camp. It's easy, you get used to it, particularly if you're brought up to it. Other people who haven't been in prison said it should be made harder, you should be on bread and... Well, yeah, he has been in prison. He should be on bread and water because that's taught him how to bring up his own children. He's made sure that none of them have gone wrong. Do you think that would help? Are you going to commit a further offence?
No, certainly not.
Why not?
When you have your liberty taken away, it's something you can't describe unless it actually happens. That is the ultimate punishment. When you come into prisons, they're not easy. You can do one or two things. You can just ignore the whole thing, put your head down like the gentleman did there, do nothing at all. Or you can work and try and better yourself. And at the end of the day, Latchmere House and other establishments like Latchmere are here to better yourself. You can go through your sentence, you can get here, you can hopefully gain employment and start living a normal life. In the process, you do your community work, etc., and pay society something back for what you did.
Elaine?
How many prisoners actually get to choose which prison they go to? This gentleman over here said that he was in prison for 2.5 years by his own choice. The actual prison that he was in, he was there by his own choice.
David?
Yeah. Because there is a system in Wandsworth Prison where if you are working in any particular department in the prison, you're put on a hold. And because of my appeal that was going through, and I had to wait for that, I had to be contained in the London area. So I chose to remain in Wandsworth. It suited Wandsworth to have me there.
It suited you as well, though,
because
you were near to your family. Well,
that's right.
If your family can get to visit you, well, then it isn't really much of a punishment, is it? Because
of course
they
it is,
just
because you
bob
can't go
around
on with
and there
them.
you are.
Carol?
You can't go on with them.
Oh, it's definitely a punishment for families.
Oh, God. I'm sorry, I can't agree with you. I can't agree with you.
Agree.
If they would behave themselves in the first place, there wouldn't be this problem, right? I had a kid, younger, is this your son?
This is my
younger than your son, who came to my house to rob me, and on his way out he tried to run me over twice. Not once, twice. And so all he got 180 hours community service. And there's a young man sat up here somewhere at the back who stole a car and got 4 years. So where is the justice? There isn't any.
Where is the justice?
Carol.
The justice for the families, for the people concerned who they've only ever committed one crime. No. One crime. Should the law take this and take away their freedom?
What is the effect on you? What is the effect on you? David, your son, is sitting alongside you. And he's currently serving a sentence here for...
theft.
Right. How long's his sentence?
30 months.
What's it done to you?
Well, initially in the beginning, I heard by telephone because I couldn't attend court. That actual day, I had an appointment at the hospital with my other son who has cancer. So I couldn't do both appointments, so I chose the cancer one. I heard by telephone. I knew that David might get imprisonment, but we were hoping for community service. He knew he'd done wrong, he admitted it. But we didn't expect 30 months.
Why not?
Why not?
What did it do to you when you got the 30 months? What did it do to you when you got the 30 months?
It made me go so cold and numb. I spent the weekend just sitting and thinking of what now is his future in life. Are we as a family? I couldn't tell anybody. And I still haven't told a lot of my family.
Why?
Yes, they know now. They know now because...
Why, Carol? Why, Carol?
Because I was very stressed out I also had a back problem.
But you were ashamed.
You were ashamed, obviously.
No, I won't say I was ashamed.
Well, I would have been.
No,
I would have been. If that had been my son, I would have been.
No, I wasn't ashamed. I wasn't ashamed.
Well, you should have been, because
No.
I've done
raised
this in
him.
the community. I've been a fireman, I've been a paramedic, and I've always been in the community service. I make this one mistake.
Well, all the more fools you then, isn't it?
One at a time,
Yeah,
please.
so I'm paying my time.
I'm still paying my time. I still wake up in the night and see that idiot coming towards me in a van, doing 80 miles an hour trying to kill me.
Have you never done anything in your life?
I don't say that I have never done
Right,
anything
so
wrong,
should you be
because I
throwing
don't
the
know anybody who
stones?
does.
Should you be throwing
Why
the stones?
not?
That's the effect on the family. The effect, David said here in front a moment ago, right at the beginning of the programme, that it wasn't just a punishment on him. He said it was a punishment on the rest of the family. Are the rest of the family punished?
Yeah, the rest of the family are punished. You're not only talking about yourself because there's a stigma attached. I do till work. I do not agree. I agree that my boyfriend should have got a sentence, yeah?
He's in prison now?
He is, yeah. I do think the sentence was a bit too severe, but then again, yes, I do agree that he should have served time for what he's done. He is doing that now. But my children are not his. Although he treats them as his own, everybody knew Stephen as their stepdad, if you want. My 11-year-old was close to Stephen. Yes, she's got names called her at school. All the close friends she had have gone. She's only got one friend left that's her friend that she can actually turn to. And even she's a bit iffy with her. Now, it's turned now that my little girls turn into babies to take walks, to have some friendship. And that's a child that was born in that community. They know their father, he's dead. But they have known that child. She's done nothing wrong. She's paying for it. I'm paying for it because I don't tell employers or anything else what my partner is doing.
I think very often, Robert, it is the families, the ones that are forgotten. We're all victims. In my mind, my partner's a victim too. My partner's a victim of the Tory MP's policies, which I would blame for the rising number of crimes that are taking place.
A lady there said...
What do you mean? How are you the victim? What's happened to you?
I'm the victim because, through no fault of my own, and without any knowledge of what was happening in our home, that my entire life was turned upside down, completely turned upside down.
How?
All done.
How?
The fact that the person that I love was taken away from me. I think punitive and involuntary separation is a punishment, a harsh enough punishment for anybody to deal with, let alone once they're actually in that situation, once they're part of the system, the punishments that are handed out when they're inside.
So how would you describe the effect on you then? What's the most damaging, most difficult part of having your partners in prison?
Having your life put on hold. I feel as though I'm half a person. When my partner was sentenced to prison, he's now serving 6 years. I felt as though he took part of me with him, and I can't be that whole person again until he returns to me.
But that you can't avoid, can you? If somebody's committed a serious offence, which we all regard as a community, because the laws are there to make sure that we all have some semblance of order and that we maintain that. If somebody's committed a serious enough offence that society determines warrants the deprivation of their liberty, and their liberty is taken away from them, unfortunately, the unintended consequences of that is that people who they love, who haven't committed any offence, are also going to be punished, naturally. But you can't get away from that, can you? You can't avoid that.
No, we've never disagreed with them, say, having a prison sentence or having a term of prison. I mean, I'd fully agree with it, but not on a big scale. But, I mean, it's been 14 months now, and this family split is getting bigger. And now we were told where he should have home leave in December. Oh no, sorry, that's cancelled. It'll be a month before he is due for parole. That month before he's due for parole may be too late. I don't know if we'll still have a working relationship together. I mean, that would make difference.
Life on hold.
I'm nearly 50. In 1981, my husband, things went very bad. I didn't know what was wrong. I hadn't got a clue. I've done nothing wrong. I've been with this man for 34 years. Now,
this man is the man sitting alongside you?
Yes, he's just been released from prison. Now, somebody up there said, you should pay. Yes, I'm nearly 50. My home has nothing to do with my husband. It's my family's home. The whole lot's gone. I don't know where I'm going to be living soon. My children, I've got 3 children.
Why don't you know where you're going to be living? Because you've lost
Because I haven't got any money.
Because of him being in prison.
In prison, and because of what he did. I signed everything over to his estate, and so I'm going to be left with a very, very small amount, not enough to buy a flat or anything. I've got 3 children now. These ladies are saying about, the effect it has on the family. My son was 14 years old when my husband was arrested. Before then, he hadn't had a good relationship with the children because he was very worried about things that were happening.
Hold on, my love.
I didn't know what was happening. The children didn't know what was happening, so there was no relationship anyway. Then he got sent to prison. When the week my husband got sent to prison, my son went to university. Now, there was no relationship at all, but thank God, because my husband was one of the few, I think it's 144 prisoners at Latchmere House. He eventually got to Latchmere House on compassionate grounds. He now has a relationship with our children. But for people to say that, I mean, the venom in your voice to this lady, that's fine. This lady, please, this lady has got 2 sons. Yes. Now look, you've both brought your sons up the best way you can. Yes. You're lucky your son's been kept going straight. This lady's unlucky. Now look, everybody here thinks, I'm not prison. I'm not going to have to visit prison. Prison's not going to affect me at all. My children are good. Look, all it needs is for your son to lose his temper or something on the rugger field, put the boot in, which happens, the child dies or something, the other one.
And then he'll go to prison and he'll deserve it, won't he?
You are guilty. You'll be sitting there and you'll be having these other ladies giving you the venom that you were giving her.
Quite possibly.
But don't you feel
deserve it,
sorry
well, then
for
I'll
her?
take
But you
it.
haven't done anything. So why do you deserve other people's venom? I've done nothing wrong. My children have done nothing wrong.
No, my children haven't done anything wrong, but
what happens
somebody
if your
tries to take
son
me away from them.
Listen to.
What happened?
There are 2 sides to this story because the victims have consequences, and the consequences carry on. All you're talking about are the consequences of your husband being in prison.
Hold on, Michael.
My husband's
hold on,
dead.
Carol, please,
I've
one at a
got
time.
2 children to
Carol,
consider.
Michael, hold on, my love, please.
What was the
please.
crime?
I want the judge to speak, Michael. You were talking to my friend here.
What nobody seems to realise is this. For a very long time, many years, no court can send anyone to prison or detention of any kind unless they are satisfied that that is the only possible answer. Prison is the bottom line.
Yes.
And when you go into prison, you are being maintained at enormous expense by the taxpayer. Your families suffer terribly. One of the things, I was a judge at the Old Bailey for over 18 years, the longest time any judge has ever sat there. They rumbled old Judge Jeffries after 4 years. I have passed something like 20,000 prison sentences in my time. So I do know a bit about it. We were trained at the Old Bailey by the great recorder, Carl Arvold, always to be very polite to families, because it's the families who suffer.
Yes.
But beyond the suffering of families, victims. I'm an active member of victim support, and it's about time, in my opinion, that we started talking about the victims of crime.
Wouldn't you also agree that I'm a victim of crime and
Certainly.
my children are victims of
Yes.
crime? I am the other victim, but nobody talks about. Not by choice.
Not by our choice as a victim.
Hold on.
Not by our choice.
No.
Neither did I. When my business has been a subject of 6 raids over the several years, the last 2 being in January and February. I wasn't a choice. It's not only cost me £3,500, but it's put me out of business. That wasn't my choice. I'm a victim, and not by that kind of choice. I didn't have one.
But how did I've chosen this?
But that's your husband. You chose your husband.
34 years ago I chose this man.
Hold on, one at a time. Hang on, please. No, what? You can't. You know you can't do that. You're just interrupting somebody else up here.
It was your husband's choice. Every prisoner in the prison is a volunteer for the prison service. He's volunteered to go in there because of the style of life that they choose. It's their choice for going in there.
But what we're trying to do, John, is get these people, for whatever reasons they've come into prison, we're trying to send them out as law-abiding, contributing members of the community. Does the training that I know Latchmere House has as a part of its policy, is that sensible? Does it work?
In a nutshell, yes. Let's come from, we talk of bottom lines. The good judge says bottom line is prison, which is fair comment. What we are missing and what we seem to be having difficulty understanding. I work at Latchmere House and I'm proud to work at Latchmere House. But I firmly believe in the public have a right to be protected. Michael Howard, no problem with that. But the point I'd like to try and make on that is that whether society, whether me as a prison officer, whether the police, whether the prisoner himself is ready for release, there will come a time when I can no longer legally keep that man. And if I am going to treat a man not far off an animal, is it any reason or any wonder when that man gets released, he behaves like one? Latchmere House, in my mind...
So, John, so what do you do?
I think you can sum Latchmere House up in one simple sentence, a couple of words. Responsible citizenship.
So you're trying to turn people who are here for whatever the reason they're here, which you know they leave on their legal entitlement at the end of their sentence to leave. You're trying to ensure that when they do leave, they've got some chance of actually reintegrating into their family, into the community, getting a job. Does it work?
We talk of victims, Robert.
Does it work?
Yes, yes. Let's talk of victims, Robert. In my experience, this is not my first prison. Can't get grey hair in a face like mine and be in this prison on its own. Having seen people that I have released at 8 o'clock in the morning from a conventional prison, to find then a phone call at 9:05 from the local police where he's gone home to, and he's done a job on the way home. If you want me to run a prison like that, no problem.
I don't think they're the alternatives, are they?
Hold on, let me finish now.
He's talking about the alternative. The alternative is what, John?
This, I believe, because we are going to release people, whether we think they're ready or not, we have to re-educate these people. We have to say, you have to be responsible to be responsible. They come to Latchmere House because they want to be here, because Latchmere House does something for them.
What does he do? David, has he done anything for you? What has he done for you in terms of achieving the objectives that John was talking about?
Well, I mean, it's the hang 'em and flog 'em brigade that you've got here. I mean, that won't work.
No, if these prisons are so good, why aren't
David,
they?
What I'm saying is that these prisons allow you to achieve a lot. They allow you to reintegrate, as John said, to reintegrate with your family. You're allowed...
How are you allowed to do that?
Because you've got time at home with your family, you've got more contact with your family.
How often do you see your family? You mean you go home?
That has changed at the moment.
Let's not talk about leave, let's talk about training.
Well, training. I mean, you can take a lot of exams, you can go to college from here, you can get yourself a firm foundation for when you are released. As I said earlier...
Have you got a firm foundation?
Yes, I have.
Have you got a job?
I've got a job in 2 weeks' time.
You've got a job as a result of what you've been doing
I've got
here.
a job from a company who wish to employ people from prison because they say that they have more responsible people who wish to actually work and project themselves and are more committed to being a success.
Has it worked? Does it work for you too?
It certainly does. I came to Latchmere House not straight into a sentence. I was sentenced to 7 years for theft. To get here isn't an automatic, easy option. It's not something that you vote for immediately. I'd love to go to Latchmere House. You have to go through the system first of all. I went through 2 what are called bang-up systems. You've seen a cross-section of people here. Some say, oh, it doesn't work, it's a doddle. It may well be that there are some people for whom it is a doddle. But at the end of the day, there are many, many more for whom it's not a doddle. You will always have to have the hard type of prison.
And there's a training, because we're talking about training.
Absolutely.
When are you leaving?
I left 6 weeks ago.
And you've got a job?
I've carried on the job that I had whilst I was at Latchmere House.
Did you pay the victim back?
Hold on,
yes,
hold on. Turn around. Well, don't you think that's a good idea, though?
If he pays the victim back, yes.
No, but what we're talking about here is there's quite a difference between the attitudes that were expressed perfectly properly by people up there who said, I want to make prisons tougher. Bread and water, my friend there, who's experienced it himself, so he knows what he's talking about. I want to make it harsher and tougher. And those who represented, first of all, by John, but by David and my friend here, who say, well, yeah, but we know we've got to send them out to the community in the end, so we're trying to make them useful members of the community. And David says it works. He's got a job, he's going to go to it, and he's never going to come back here again. And my friend here says he's got a job. Isn't that what we want?
Well, yes, but what about the habitual reoffender then?
Well, we're
One
going
that
to try
keeps on and on and on doing it.
But you want to stop him?
They don't get to Latchmere.
They don't deserve to get to it. They don't deserve to.
Then we don't deserve them to be rehabilitated. Then we must expect them to reoffend.
Well, one of the gentlemen...
Did you hear what she said? See, it's in our interest for them not to reoffend, isn't it? It's in your interest, it's in mine.
Yes, but it's too late
not
for
only
me.
do I want him
It's
to
too late for me,
be
though.
doing a job and paying taxes. It's not too late, because it can happen to you
This is
again.
for me.
It can happen to you again, can't it?
No, I'm out of business. That's it, finished. My small business that I took very hard work and I took a long time to build up is finished.
Lawrence?
It's out.
Lawrence?
You're quite right. It is in our interest not to have these people reoffend. It's just a question of the best way to prevent them reoffending. And I'm inclined to agree with this gentleman here. You want punishment as part of the prison sentence should be part of punishment, and you should serve the punishment part before you get on the retraining part. So you can.
But the punishment, Lawrence, is the deprivation of liberty.
That's
They
not
are being
enough.
punished.
It's not enough. Listen, Robin.
Yeah,
I worked very, very hard, started up with a bucket of water and a wash ladder. I now employ several people and I have 2 businesses. And I brought a nice house for when I eventually retire and to spend the odd day there, because I work 7 days a week. I work roughly a 16-hour day. And in the middle of the night, thieves came to my house, mine and my wife's house, that we'd worked for years. And they stripped it. They took everything. And I walked into that house and I saw that. And that lady there tells me about her deprivation. What about my deprivation? What about the personal things that were taken? Don't talk to me about crime and punishment. The whole system's an absolute shambles, and they let people out on weekend passes that continually re-offend and nothing is done about it.
Surely we've got a choice here, haven't we? Either we give people punishment and then we help them to get back into society, or we don't help them back into society, and as John Morgan was saying, they simply go back into society and re-offend. It doesn't help the victims, surely. It doesn't help the victims.
Do you help the
Yes, we do. I'm at the Royal Star and Garter Home, and we've been in this programme with John Morgan for some time now. Chaps have been coming up from the prison here. They've been doing marvellous work. We're a very vulnerable organisation there. We've got elderly ex-servicemen. But I must say that the chaps who've come up there have worked extremely hard, and I know that a lot of them have got jobs subsequently. I think that's marvellous.
Yeah.
I think that helps them back into society. I think that helps the victims.
Does that mean then we should encourage home leave?
Yeah, of course. If you take away home leave, you're taking away everything what a prisoner's got, haven't you? You know, he can either do it the hard way or the easy way, can't he? You know, if
you get home
you
leave? What do you do?
I go and see my children.
How often?
I was getting it every week, but now it's once a month.
How important is that to you?
Very important, because
Why?
otherwise I don't see my children.
How important is it? I mean, it's important to see your children, of course, but is it important for you to keep, is that part of keeping the family unit together, do you think?
Yeah, because otherwise I wouldn't see my children. I'm a divorced father.
It sounds sensible.
Yes,
Sounds sensible.
that sounds sensible, but
hold on.
I am really concerned about the victims. I think we have a new rule in this country: punish the victim and reward the guilty.
Yes.
I was in 3 armed. I was a security express officer, and I worked in that all my life until 5 years ago. I was looking forward to working there till I retired at 65. Instead, we had shotguns put into our neck. I was knocked down the security van itself, and I was drove onto the moors. I wasn't allowed to get off my knees. I thought we was going to die. I had a driver in the front with a shotgun in his neck, and 2 of us in the back with shotguns. And they made me empty the safe, otherwise they was going to blow us away there and then. What about people like me? I have had nothing. And one of those people had already served 5 years for armed robbery, and he was awarded his costs out of public funds because there was only me prepared to stand up and face him in court.
Hold on.
Yeah. these people went to court, you've had your retribution. Do you want revenge and all? You know, you're going to
Why
make
not?
them bitter.
Peter?
You make them even more bitter than what they already are. You know?
Please.
There are a lot of victims. There's the first victim, the victim of the crime. There's the family of the criminal. I agree that they're victims too. I take that point. And of course, society's a victim because we have to spend money and resources on offenders, which would be far better spent on other things within society. But you know, none of those victims are caused by the criminal justice system. They're all caused by someone deciding to commit an offence.
But the criminal justice, yes, they may not be caused, but the criminal justice system and the way in which we deal with them within the penal system can exacerbate their problems. They can make it work. We have a very clear choice here. Do we go down the line of actually trying to say, just turn the key and throw it away and forget about them, and we know the facts of that is that 80% of those who leave prison will commit offences again? Or do we take the John line, which says, right, we've got to try to reform, rehabilitate, reintegrate people into the community so they don't commit the offences that cause the victims to be in the situation they are here today? The criminal justice system can exacerbate or make it better.
Of course, what we want to do is prevent reoffending. We also want to prevent offending in the first place.
Well, in that case, if you want to prevent reoffending, why has your government reduced home leave?
Well, we have to do a number of things at once. Can I say that, as far as John's concerned, I agree entirely. We have to teach two things. As he said, responsibility. First of all, you are responsible for the fact that you are in prison. Nobody else. You chose to commit that offence, you're in prison. So we first of all teach you responsibility. That's the punishment, the retribution, if you like. Then we have to teach you how to be a responsible citizen. I couldn't agree more. So that when they come out, they are responsible citizens. That's what places like do. We're not restricting that. Can I put the other side, Rob?
Hang on. We're talking about home leave.
Yes, we're cutting home leave.
It's a very important part of this, clearly.
Can I deal with that?
Yeah, of course.
All right. I had a letter from someone who sent me a press cutting. And this was a victim of a knife attack. And the attack took place in Oxford. It's not my constituency, but my constituent was concerned about it. The person who did that attack was sentenced. 2 weeks later, he having been on remand before sentence, with full privileges, 2 weeks later, he was walking down the street in which the attack took place and was seen by the victim, who fled into her home, bolted the door and called the police, thinking he'd escaped. He was on home leave. He goes home, or was going home, every Saturday to the very street where that attack took place. Of course we've stopped that. It should never have happened.
I know the man that was about, because that happened at Spring Hill when I was there. They were not aware that that happened so suddenly. The moment it was brought to light, they stopped him going out to the home area again.
Home leave. Does it work?
Keeping prisoners in contact with their family helps. In terms, we're interested in crime prevention. We're interested in having less victims.
We're on the same side, aren't we?
Well, it's a very complex. One thing we've learned this morning is that this is a very complex issue. It's a very emotional issue, and don't look to the prison system or the criminal justice system to solve all the ills of society. We're in danger of doing that. The act of sending someone to prison is punishment. There is no question of that. Prison isn't a holiday camp. No one is queuing up to come into prison, even into Latchmere. No, they're not. Open the doors and everyone would walk out.
Hang on. I'll deal with that because he says yes, they are. Please.
There's so many people homeless out there who ain't living nowhere and would rather live in prison than be on the streets.
Oh,
I mean, that's and about home leave, can I say something, please?
Okay, yeah, I understand. Take your point. There's a different point. We understand.
Well, what a sad reflection on society if people want to come in here.
Mentally ill
so the act of locking people up, of depriving them of their liberty, is a real punishment. Make no doubt about that. It really is a punishment. Absolutely. What we then have to do is say, how do you make the experience of imprisonment positive, so that people will go out and will not commit crime, so that there will be less victims, so that people will be law-abiding and pay their taxes, and it's prisons like Latchmere that enable that to happen.
The reoffending recidivism rate is less than 1/2 of 1%. That speaks for itself. When
Should we have tougher sentences then, do you think? They're saying it works. They're saying, Lawrence, please, they're saying it works. It actually, what we want them to come out so they don't commit another offence against me, you or anybody else. John says it works. This system works.
Can it?
But he's got the facts and the figures that shows that it works.
It might work here, but it doesn't work all over the country. It's, what is it, 75%?
What are you saying, the sentences are too light?
Of course they're too light. Of course they're too light.
Michael, sentences are too light? Are they? He says sentences are too light.
Well, we have more
please, Michael.
I want to say this. The criminal law is a very separate branch of the law. and cases should be tried by specialists. When you get, like the other day, a judge who lets a case run for 6 months at enormous public expense, a fraud case, and then sends the jury home because neither he nor the jury can understand what's going on. That is an absolute disgrace.
But are sentences in general too light, as my friend
Yes, they are.
alleged?
Maximum sentences.
Let Michael finish. Michael finish. Go on, Michael.
I mean, is it worth my speaking, or am I going to get shouted at all the time?
No, you're not getting shouted at, Michael. No, nobody's shouting at
The whole
anybody.
of this programme has been about prisoners instead of being about victims.
Michael, that's both unfair and unkind of you to say that.
It's
because,
true.
I know it's true, because we're in a prison and we're talking about the penal system. We have had other programmes on other days, as we will do again, on victims. But as you like saying, this programme is about football and we should be talking about rugby. We are talking, the room is full of people who are victims and they've been very eloquent and very emotional in making their points. But we are talking about the effectiveness or otherwise of prison.
The total prison population in this country is approximately 51,000, which is the size of a decent football crowd any Saturday in a big premiership match. They're a tiny minority. They're a tiny minority. They have so many friends groveling at their feet of people like Mara Hindley and the Black Panther and so on. They have so many, there are so many do-gooders. There is only one system, victim support, which is trying to help Carol.
But shouldn't we, in that case, be encouraging for more places like this, where prisoners are going to be educated and jobs given?
It depends on what they've done. Those like me now, I got stabbed like in 1990.
Yes.
That was like attempted murder, GBH of intent.
Yeah.
The person who stabbed me got 6 years and like he's out on the road already. There's people here like stolen money and that, and they're getting 6 years. To me, that doesn't make a bit of sense at all. I'll never understand that. He shouldn't even be getting home. He shouldn't be out now, and he's like out. You know what I mean? Making remarks and stuff, that don't make sense.
Well, can I say, some sentences are too tough, some are too slight. That's human nature. Humans are fallible, and it's humans doing the judging.
Judges make mistakes as well.
Judges, even politicians make mistakes, all right?
Judges be accountable.
The people who don't make mistakes are victims because they have no choice, and to that extent I agree with Michael Argyle entirely. But can I just say that in general, the public demand is for tougher sentences first, but sentences that work. And that's what we're trying to do in
David, John, let me minute. David, I'm coming to you.
Sentences work if you want them to work. I mean, I think we've got to state that quite clearly. The prison system is full of 50-odd thousand people, 50-odd thousand individuals. Now, if you've got guilt, then you'll punish yourself more than anyone can punish you, whether you're in prison or not. If you haven't got guilt, nothing in the world can make you feel guilty. And if you want to be rehabilitated, and if you want to go out there and lead a law-abiding life, only you can do it. You can't do it from a B category prison. You can't do it from a bang-up nick because you are not given the opportunity to. It's purely containment.
Can I just jump in a second, Dave, and say we were talking about victims, and I totally agree with you, good sir, that victims are important. But let me just put this small point to you. Victim support, unfortunately, weren't able to be with us today. But as a member of victim support, as well, sir, I find great difficulty when we pay lip service to victim support in this meeting here, that I have to send prisoners who are willing and able, and a funny little story that goes with it, out to local stations within this area, holding a tin, gathering money for victim support. If we are saying victims are important, why the hell isn't the government putting more money towards it? The funny little story, just bear with me 2 seconds, Robert, a funny little story, because we've had
I haven't got much
very
more
little
than 2
humour.
seconds there, John.
Right. A prisoner went out to Surbiton Station collecting money for victim support. He went out at 8 o'clock in the morning. I got a call at 20 to 9, John, get out here quick, there's a problem. Gets out there, the guy was 6'4", broken nose, cauliflower ears, built like an outside loo. What he was doing was grabbing punters by the throat and saying, "You will put a pound in this tin."
Take care of yourselves, have a good weekend. See you on Monday.
Well, a future Kilroy programme will be discussing the heartache of ending a relationship. If you'd like to air your feelings on being jilted or even instigating a breakup, then call Kilroy now.